Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Irishman Notes Review. Okay, so the reason I'm doing a live stream instead of just a formal movie review is because I took almost 2 pages of notes. Come on. Almost 2 pages of notes. And for me to condense this into like a 9-minute review or 14-minute review or something, I can't do that without it being very torturous, to say the least. And you know what? I don't really want to do a double or triple movie review because like I just saw Gemini Man and I'm gonna go see Knives Out tonight, so I don't really want to have to condense all my thoughts into like a 10-minute video because then those won't be all my thoughts. So these are all pretty much my thoughts on The Irishman. So first of all, freaking loved it. It's in the top 10 of the year, of course. Maybe not of course, but I was actually surprised how much I enjoyed it like after I watched it. You know what I mean? I thought about it and I rewatched a bunch of scenes and I bumped up the letter grade. I'll tell you guys a letter grade afterwards. So first of all, the first thing I wrote here is actually something I figured out after watching the movie. Is I said you need to know the history a little bit. So it's the story of Frank Sheeran and Russell Buffalino, I forget, but and Jimmy Hoffa. So their relationship with Jimmy Hoffa and all the underground mob stuff that has been intertwined with the Teamsters union. Now, I didn't know any of this before watching the movie. Because at work, we have Teamsters around all the time. They're one of the biggest parts of like where I work. On sets and whatever. It's they do all the transport and whatnot, like all the trucks and every piece of equipment needs to be transported, and that's what the Teamsters do. So it was kind of cool seeing the union in this movie and like where it kind of started. The movie doesn't tell you how it starts. It just shows how the Teamsters union got intertwined with the story of Frank Sheeran, the Irishman. So before watching the movie, I would actually brush up a little bit on this era because it also has a lot of stuff to do with there's a lot of the Kennedy stuff in this movie as well. Man, these audio levels are really quiet. Yeah. Anyway, so I would say that in terms of if you're going to compare this to stuff like Goodfellas, I would say this is definitely the most similar movie of Scorsese's to Goodfellas. It's not anywhere near Shutter Island actually no, this and Casino and The Irishman are the closest, not necessarily in quality, but the closest in the feeling to Goodfellas. And I was actually really surprised how different they actually seemed. Because The Irishman, you can look at it and you can just see another crime movie, another mob story, but this movie is definitely, it makes you think because it's a character piece. It really is. And that term gets thrown around too much. It just it's when you say this movie is a character piece, some people just use that term for kind of lazily saying like, oh, that movie had really good characters, so it must be a character piece. But no, this movie indulges and puts the characters in the forefront. Like everything you experience is through Frank Sheeran and whatnot. So he's definitely the person you relate to the most. It's just very well done in terms of that. So I'll start with the second thing I wrote here. I said the amazing aging effects on Pesci and pretty much everybody. That was at the very beginning, like at the gas station scene and whatnot. I was like, because the movie jumps around from like past to present to no, yeah, yeah. It's all really in the past or present. Of course, there's no future. What am I talking about? But man, the aging and de-aging effects, freaking phenomenal. Okay, so I just watched Gemini Man, as I said, and everybody before seeing that movie was super excited and anticipating what these effects were going to look like because that's how it was marketed. It was marketed as like, the game-changing movie in terms of these kinds of effects. And I didn't think it was bad. Like a lot of people said it's just awful, but no, I think it's very well done except in two scenes. One scene where Will Smith is fighting Will Smith, they look like rubber. It was really terrible. Actually, it was bad. But and then at the end, there's like this PS3 graphic ass looking thing. Yeah. So in terms of that movie being marketed as the game changing movie for those effects, those kind of effects, it's just it seems almost like laughable because the Irishman did it way better and I'm sure much of it was like prosthetics, makeup, and whatnot. And even if it was, I'm sure because Martin Scorsese actually said this that it's a lot of CGI. It's mostly CGI. I don't know if it was. I'm pretty sure it was motion capture. So de-aging software is different from motion capture, and I'm not sure which one they used. Gemini Man used motion capture is what I found out today. And it doesn't look as good as this movie. This movie is just it's so visually striking in that respect. Yeah, it was really impressive. So especially near the end, like you could like this is they are old, or like this is real. There's no way that they perfected the CGI in like maybe a few months. This must have taken, I would say, a year. Like, you guys remember, it must have been Tomorrow, or it was a James Bond movie with Pierce Brosnan, and I think it was Die Another Day or something like that. Is that even what it's called? He's like, he has a parachute on, and he's surfing on these waves, and there are a bunch of icebergs around him. It looked like garbage. It looked really terrible, and that CGI apparently took a year to perfect. So I can't see these are kind of effects in The Irishman taking any less than a year. It's just so crazy. So, moving on. I heard you're painting houses. That's a good line. Of course, that's like what the book is called, but that's still such a great line. And I'm 99% sure that's what they actually said. The production level of it, of course, is incredible. The time is so well realized with the cars, and especially I said gas station, and it's that first gas station scene with Pesci and De Niro, where he's helping him fix a timing chain. And like, for some reason, I was focusing on what the lines were, but I was also like, oh my god, like, this is really good set work. Like, this gas station is really old fashioned looking, and I don't think they could have done better. It's absolutely fantastic. The dialogue sounds so natural. So yeah, of course, when you have this man and this man in, like, how many movies? I think they've been in 8 movies together. They haven't been the leads in all of them, but like, I would assume they would sound as natural as they can be. They sound like they've known each other for as long as they have, and that translates into the movie. And something else which is just incredible is that they don't seem like any of their other roles. So Pesci and De Niro in this movie don't seem like they're doing a knockoff impersonation of Tommy and Jimmy in Goodfellas. And they don't seem like brothers, the brothers from Raging Bull. and they don't seem like the enemies slash partners in Casino. These are new characters, and they feel completely different. Like their relationship feels completely different, which is amazing. Which is the best thing ever. That's the best thing that you could have hoped for when having these characters in a movie together for like the seventh or eighth time and whatnot. So I think it's one of the best aspects of the entire film. There's a shot where a chicken is getting cut and blood smears all over someone's face. That was pretty good looking shot. Oh yeah, so around the time where Frank agrees to start delivering steaks to Joe Gallo, I think that's his name, played by Bobby Cannavale. That's his name. I'm not sure on the names for some reason. When he decides to deliver the steaks and he's moving them around in the big refrigeration room, like there's a really awkward song change. It's almost like they had one song and they did like a fade into another song and it didn't sound very good. So that, of course, is just like the tiniest nitpick ever. I just wrote it down. The Italian baptism, I think it was at the very beginning. The church looks freaking immaculate. Ray Romano. I love Ray Romano. And I seeing him in the trailer, I was just like, oh my God, that's incredible. He's in a Scorsese movie and he makes the most of his screen time. He plays a very assertive character and one of the strongest characters. I mean, of course, he has like a lot of bosses. He's not like the top dog, but he's the man. He's the man in this movie. The amazing court scene when he's actually, telling the judge and the jury how Frank Sheeran, I don't know if he said he was completely innocent, but he said, the names that he did not mention, they don't even exist. So, you're just basing this all off threats. And you know how that scene ends with the judge saying that same thing. And I love how this is all just over like him delivering beef to the wrong person. It's very clever, even though it's a true story. And the camera work in that court scene is also incredible. I wrote the cast is freaking amazing, of course. Okay. So when Russell and Frank are talking, and they have their bread and their wine, they're dipping their bread and eating it. Russell says a line that it's similar to Forrest Gump. It might be the exact same line when he's like, "Were you afraid of dying?" And I knew where that was gonna go. I was just like, "Oh man, that's an impactful line." And of course, that leads into the flashback or whatever, and you see Frank shoot two soldiers that were digging their graves. So that shows you a lot about Frank's, personality and what. Oh, not necessarily personality, but the way he works and the stuff that he's gone through. Because he's a quieter character, so he's not anything like Ray Liotta's character. Oh, frick. Henry. He's not anything like that. He's not verbose. He's quiet, and he'll get the job done. So, but he's also mysterious, and you can tell he's tortured. So, that's one of the great things. That's one of the few amazing things about his character. De Niro, the way he stutters. Well, you see, I think it was Chris Stuckman that said, the lines. They don't even feel like I'm stuttering right now. They don't even feel like they're scripted, because it's just, how many times has De Niro done this? And it feels just as fresh, only he makes it feel so natural, because he has the way of talking where he's like, well, I'm just I don't want you to get hurt and whatnot. I can't do the impression, but the stuttering, it's not like annoying. It's definitely, it fits the character. And people stutter. I've been stuttering for the last 10 minutes, or 14 minutes. So You can't always have a perfectly read script. I don't believe in that. I don't like when movies, I think it was Casino Royale. I first saw this. I was like, they're saying everything so perfectly, so glossy. It's just all the line delivery. It almost seems a little manufactured. And I love Casino Royale, but it's the scene where Vesper and him are on the train, and I was just like, they could mix it up a little. This is all very generic sounding. So stuttering a little bit goes a long way. So we got the war flashbacks. Yep. Oh, the flashback with Russell, and he has the bloody clothes and his wife is like, "I'll get rid of those clothes, take his shoes off, and go upstairs." That was freaking perfect. Perfect. That was perfection. I love that flashback so much because it doesn't show anything verbose and crazy. He just walks in with bloodstains and with his shirt looking exactly like this, and that's all you need. That's all you need to show what kind of life he leads and what kind of relationship he has with his wife. Because she's totally into this whole crime world, and he just walks upstairs, not saying anything. It's perfect. It's the best flashback that they could have ever done. There's a part where someone turns up the radio to talk. That was pretty cool. Oh yeah, that scene where he goes and finds, I forget who it was, but Joe Gallo needed to talk to somebody, and he's just like, his mother's been dying for the past 10 years. It's always that same excuse, I don't have the money because the funeral set me back or whatever. That's pretty messed up, and he deserves to be taken at gunpoint for that one. The time jumping does get a little confusing. I think the second time I watched this movie, I didn't watch it in full twice, but I watched a good deal of scenes where I didn't have a problem with it anymore. It's just, I think the first time I was like, all right, this is a little jarring. We're in the past now. We're in the past, not in the, yeah. So I think that could have been tweaked a little bit, but it's not a detrimental issue. De Niro, he gets up into the mob pretty fast. In Goodfellas, it was more gradual, but again, this is a true story, so if this is how it actually went, then I can't fault the movie for that. He climbs up the ranks pretty quick. He gets in with Harvey Keitel's character and whatnot. I forget what his name was. Damn. I wish I had the cast on it. Whatever. But he gets with him pretty quick. When Peggy is like sitting down on the desk with her face down, and De Niro's like, "What happened?" And you find out that the store clerk like shoved her or something like that. And I love how he goes up to her and he's just like, "Did he push you? Did he touch you? What did he do? Did he touch you? Just tell me that." And she's like that, and he's like, "All right, let's go." Like immediately. So they go out the door, and this is more like the craft of the movie that I was blown away by. It's he goes up to the store clerk, and the store clerk was like, "Your daughter is out of line. I didn't, Frank, what are you doing?" He like punches him in the face, pushes him down and kicks him out the door. And as he hits the door, the glass breaks. And of course, why would this be amazing? Of course it's gonna happen. It's crazy how well that was timed, like the glass breaking and whatnot, because I know how these kind of things work for the most part. I sound like Rice Gum. Basically, I know what the hell's going on. So I love the way they did that. The door breaking, if you will. Welcome to my brain. So, oh yes, all right. So the whole plot, where the whole subplot or not, when he goes and sees Whispers, not that Whispers, the other Whispers. He goes and sees him, and he tells him like, "I own a washing company and whatnot, and we're going out of business because this other linen company is taking up all our customers and making us go out of business. So I want you to bomb the place or burn it or whatever you have to do." So already I was getting excited in that diner scene. I was like, something great's gonna happen. So he's like patrolling the place, he's getting the gasoline ready. And then when Gallo came and saw him, I was like, they know something's happening and they know he was about to do this because he was in Delaware. And I was like, oh God, I got really nervous in that scene. He goes and sees Harvey Keitel. He's like, what were you doing in Delaware? And I mean, like, this was my face the entire time. I was like, and that doesn't usually happen because I noticed it. I was like, got my hand right on my mouth. I was like, "Oh, okay, calm down." And he says like, "I own half that company, not just the Jew washerwomen." So, that was masterful. That whole thing, how it was done, that was so great. And of course, he doesn't get in trouble because he's just like, "No, I would never do anything like that to you if I knew that you own half a company." So. And I knew what was going to happen next. He's got to take out Whispers. So he goes around the corner, and he's just like, I didn't know which way you were coming from. I didn't know which way you were coming from. Bam, like right in the face. Like the blood splatters and whatnot. That was, I sound kind of morbid saying this, but that was cool. So, yeah, and the way Harvey Keitel says, like, he won't need it. Like, you already know what's going to be happening. And this is pretty much, I think, my favorite shot in the movie is when he's like, now you need to go dispose of the weapon. So he goes to that bridge that everyone uses, and he throws it into the river, or, yeah, whatnot. And you see an underwater shot of the gun coming down and sinking onto the bottom of the riverbed, and you see all these weapons covered in dirt and sand. He's just like, you could arm a small country if any divers went down there. Like that, I went like this because I was the only one watching it, so I clapped when I heard that line and I saw the beautiful shot. I wrote absolutely beautiful shot because it was so good. There's a shot, or there's a scene where some women are talking to each other and they're like interrupting each other, and I thought that was a subtle thing that was cool because it makes it more real. The steam room scene, I forget who was talking to Frank, but the line delivery was amazing in that scene. Oh, the vodka watermelon thing. I think it was vodka. That was funny. Shut up. He was just like, you guys really like watermelon? And he's just like, yeah, you want a bite? And he's like, nah, not on your life or whatever. So that was pretty funny. I love whenever you see someone that may have died or is in prison, it like freezes on a very unflattering frame. They don't pick the best frame. Like they could be blurred and it says like their name, the date they died or they got into prison, and it like zooms in on them. That was pretty cool. That was a cool little artistic decision. The whole Kennedy's thing is the whole part of the movie to do with Kennedy's. I feel like it was a little dry, the execution. So the ending, of course, wasn't that bad. And that whole scene where he's with Ray Romano and he's saying like, they'll never forget that I gave Nixon money and whatnot. Yeah, that was exciting. But I feel like the montage of court scenes and business scenes, they weren't that interesting. I understood what was going on, but I feel like there was a better way to do it. I don't know what it is, but this is Scorsese we're talking about. So the man can almost do no wrong. Oh yeah, and Frank Sheeran. Here's another part where I was like, yeah, he was talking to somebody and he was using the exact same lines Ray Romano said or Bill Buffalino said to him. So he wasn't a attorney or anything, but he was using the same lines as Ray Romano was saying before, and I thought that was so gratifying. That was really cool. Oh yeah, I love the fact that Frank Sheeran and I don't know if Russell Buffalino was there, and Jimmy Hoffa. There, I haven't talked about Hoffa that much. Oh crap, they were in an ice cream shop, when John F. Kennedy got murdered. That's like the least dramatic and theatrical place for you to be when like one of your number one most hated people gets killed. Jimmy Hoffa, he doesn't celebrate or anything. He just sort of walks away. But I just love that they are in this like little ice cream shop, or was it a little diner of some sort. And Jimmy Hoffa, of course, like Al Pacino. I don't know. In The Godfather, besides The Godfather, I don't think I've ever seen a performance I enjoyed more than this one. I just thought of Jack and Jill. Shut up. Shut up. You're a disgrace for even thinking about that. Yeah, no. No. If you thought of that, I'm sorry. No, me, I'm a disgrace for thinking about that. So I think this is my personal favorite Al Pacino performance ever, probably. And a lot of yelling and whatnot. Everybody's just like, he screams and he's over the top. He's not over the top, I don't think. There's only one part that I think he could be that could be construed as over the top. As when he's yelling at all his his coordinators and saying like, I'm gonna go to prison. I'm gonna go to jail. It's because of you. Because of you, you dumb motherfucker. You know what I mean? And Frank Sheeran gets all pissed off and he walks out and he's like, I quit and whatnot. So I think that was the most crazy we saw Pacino. And that's not like Nicolas Cage level crazy. So I think it was perfect amount of freaking out. And my favorite line delivery from him by far is when I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but he's talking to Russell at Frank's award night. He's like, and he's talking to him saying like, I'm not showing appreciation. I went to school for 5 effing years. 5 effing years. And I was just, it's so great. I've rewinded that so many times and been like, yeah, you're the man. You're the man. So that's a scene later. I'll deconstruct a little more. Ray Romano was the man I put again, because he is. I don't remember exactly how they got Hoffa for fraud. I don't remember the process in which they actually got him, because I didn't rewatch that part of the movie. But it seemed a little sudden. Okay, so the part of the movie, like probably my favorite argument in the movie, is Hoffa and Tony Pro in prison together, because the little guy, he hates the little guy running the other union. I have skipped over that. I have skipped over a lot of stuff, but if you've seen the movie, you know where I'm at right now. So when he's talking about his pension, he's like, I got a problem with my pension, and you like do something about it. I need you. I watched that scene like 10 times probably. I love the dialogue so much because they're being childish, but you can understand, like, I probably wouldn't be any better in that situation, because Hoffa, he's so stubborn. He, like, if he's not getting his way, and if he's not resolving things his way, then, fists are going to be freaking thrown. And Tony Pro is a hothead who doesn't understand the fact that Hoffa is as stubborn as he is. So they will clash, and not, like, badly. So I think that's probably my favorite, like, negative exchange in the entire movie, especially when he goes like, you people. Oh my God, he's like, you people? What'd you say? You said you people. Like, what is that supposed to mean? And then later on in the business meeting, when he comes in wearing shorts, he is just like, what, am I below you? And he's like, definitely. It's so great. Oh yeah, okay, so Crazy Joe, played by, I can't remember who it is, but he gets a black man to shoot the Italian league person in the head, and Russell's all like, that's disgusting. Him and Oswald, the person who killed JFK, they're 2 of a kind. At least we have class. And we can do it behind the scenes where nobody sees it. But this guy in the middle of a crowd gets someone shot dead. So that's a scummy thing that's the worst thing you could possibly do. What's it called? Look. Oh yeah. So when they're at the comedy club and Don Rickles, I'm assuming that was Don Rickles, making jokes about Joe because it was Crazy Joe's birthday, and he goes up to Russell and he's just like, "What's this? You really believe in that? You really believe in this league and whatnot?" And he says, "Well, it's Italian." And then Frank gets up. He's like, "No, Joe, you can't go around saying that kind of stuff around here." And they get into this little like passive aggressive argument, like, you're my brother, right? We're brothers. And he's like, yeah. He's a boss, okay? He's like, I'm a boss. So that was pretty cool. And when Frank sits down, you only need one look from Russell to know, like, he has to die now. Crazy Joe has to die now. So I believe his name was Crazy Joe is what they called him. But so then you cut to a shot with a bunch of guns on a bed, and you see that he is. I love how he goes through why each gun is better or worse for the assassination or hit he's going to be doing. Like a 22, not enough stopping power. A 44, way too much noise. A patrol car will hear it. And a 32. I can't remember whether he chose a 32 or a 38. I think it was a 38 he chose. He chose two because you got to have one and you got to have one for backup. Even though he does like this dual wield stuff when he goes inside the clam house that Crazy Joe was celebrating his birthday at. I think he was celebrating his birthday still, yeah, because he was with his family. And he goes inside and it's so good. The cinematography, and it builds up the tension. It's just the best they could have done. And you see that shot from the trailer where he's like, he breaks through the glass door and he shoots him, which is weird because in the trailer they use audio from the store clerk scene that, no, please, man, no. They use that audio and just put it for that shot in the trailer where he kills Crazy Joe, which is weird. And you only notice that if you've watched the scenes as many times as I have. So that's like the best hit scene. No. It's not. You know what the best hit scene is, but it's the most engaging. No, it's not even the most engaging. I mean, it's like, what am I trying to say? It's probably the best visually. And then he goes and throws the two guns in the ocean. Oh yeah, so so Peggy looking at Frank and not saying anything was really powerful because she knew from watching the TV. Was she like, I think she was growing older at this time. Anna Paquin was portraying her. Frank Sheeran's watching the TV, watching his hit be covered for Crazy Joe and whatnot. And they're saying, like, this might start a gang war if it hasn't already started it at all. And Peggy's looking at him. She knows, man. She knows exactly that he did it. And she didn't say anything. That was really powerful. So the whole exchange where since Hoffa was in jail, Fitz took over a large portion of the Union. And I love how they keep blowing up each other's stuff. So like Fitz sends a message to this other guy who ran like Local 299 or something like that. The other Union blows up his boat, and then he returns the favor. Oh no! And then Hoffa returns the favor by blowing up. I think it was his car. It wasn't Fitz's car. It was somebody else. But then, like, one of the best, most intense scenes in the entire film happens. Whatchamacallit? Hoffa's wife. It was Hoffa's wife? Yeah. Goes inside the car, and she's about to turn the key, and the music just stops, and she freezes. I thought my TV or Netflix froze, but there was no red spooling thing. I'm like, so this is part of the movie? Okay. All right. Because, she stops, and the music just cuts. And she's staring at her keys. She lets go of the keys. And you just see the keys like waggling because you know what she's thinking. Like, if I turn this, I could blow up. I don't know if she could have just checked under the car. Like, I guess it kind of depends on what kind of bomb it was. But she puts her fingers back on the key. I'm like, don't do it. I was thinking, like, why would you do it? But then I realized after, if she said, I think there's a bomb under my car, well, then if she told the police that, they'd be like, why? Who wants to kill you? Why are you getting threats? Why do you think there's a bomb under your car? Oh, because your husband's in the mob? Oh. So she turns it, and she gets a flash of uh, this shot of a car blowing up that's been, like, I think twice in the movie. I think that's like what the other Whispers did. So the car blows up, and she's like, oh, nothing happened. That was flawless. It was so good. So good. Last page of notes. So once again, I said the time jump wasn't obvious enough. That is true. Because there is a big part of the movie that just jumps maybe about 10, 15 years, I think it was, and it wasn't obvious enough. It kind of just, the only indication that I knew that happened is because Peggy grew a lot older. And, okay, by the way, I freaking love how Jimmy Hoffa was so close to Frank's daughter and, his family in general. It makes it so much deeper. Like, this, of course, this actually happened, but imagine it wasn't a true story. This would be like A+ material, making Jimmy Hoffa be as close as he was to Frank Sheeran and his family. Which makes it so, there's so much more substance underneath then. They're all named Tony. Which Tony? Fat Tony. Salerno. Like, one of the biggest mob bosses ever, I think it was. He was sentenced to like 100 years in prison. And he's a big deal. But Jimmy Hoffa, of course, he didn't understand that. And there's that whole, like, going back and forth between, like, he said that? Like, who said that? Tony said that? I don't need any of that. I'm never retiring now. And then it goes to Tony. It's just like, no, what? He actually said that? No. You got to get into his head that this has to happen. He's got to calm down, because on the TV he was like, the rats got to abandon ship. If you haven't watched the movie, you have no idea what I'm talking about. I just realized how non-discreetly I'm talking about this movie. Like, I'm just going in depth, so make sure you watch the movie first, of course. Okay, so I think this is probably my favorite part of the movie is Frank's award night. Like, just the entire, it must have been 20, 25 minutes or something. It might have been shorter. It's just like that whole area of the movie is just A+. It's so good. So when he gets the award, when Russell and Fat Tony are talking, and he's just like, he's stopping Fat Tony's like, Jimmy Hoffa's stopping people from rubber stamping and whatnot. And he's like, God, son of a bitch. And he then after that, there's this incredible music, and I think it was Jerry Vale's Spanish Eyes. Please say, and there's this harmonization from the backup singers while Jimmy Hoffa is dancing with Peggy. So great. That music was perfect. And even before the award stuff starts happening, Russell and Jimmy Hoffa are talking about, how there's people that are very unhappy with how Jimmy Hoffa is reacting and operating. And you see Frank's face, like, with such a worried look when he sees them talking. And Jimmy's like, you can tell he's getting pissed. And Russell's just saying, like, I'm here to help you. There must be some other reason. Like, do you need money? Do you want money? He's like, it's not a matter of money. It's my union. Is that not enough? He's like, no. I understand that, but I can't help but think, I'm sorry, that there must be some other reason. Well, this is my union. This is my union. Okay? We'll start with that. And this is a scene that I talked about before, like my favorite line delivery in the movie, when he's just like, when Russell says, some people, not me, believe you're not showing enough appreciation. He's like, I'm not showing appreciation. I went to school for 5 effing years. 5 effing years. I'm sorry, I gotta say that again. I sat next to that cocksucker over there, whining about his woe stories and his problems, when all I wanted to do was finish my ice cream. And this movie is surprisingly quotable after you've watched it a few times. I love those lines. And Russell's all like, you did the right thing. No, you're absolutely right. But some people, not me, are very unhappy with the way you're acting. And he's just like, no one threatens Hoffa. He walks away. And then Russell gives Frank that ring, that really rare ring that only 3 people have. I can't remember Harvey Keitel's character's name, man. It's not Anthony. No, it's not. But I'm gonna look at it later and be like, oh, you idiot, you should remember that. But he's like, you know how strong I made you and whatnot. Like, you can see genuine friendship between Russell and Frank and Hoffa. I wrote that here. I said no. Oh yeah, I wrote genuine friendship between Pesci, Pacino, and De Niro. Of course, it's mainly just Frank being friends with both of them separately. But I love how genuine it is. I love how it's the most intimate mob movie I think Scorsese's ever made. It's the most, like Goodfellas is just relentless and unfeeling. And that's not a negative. I love this movie, of course, but the Irishman is much more somber and intimate. There's no other word I can think of. Intimate is the word that comes to my mind because it analyzes the characters more, and you get a feel for what they are thinking. Like, you know what they're thinking before they say it. Like that, not many movies this year have done that. Many movies ever, really. You can just see what the characters are. No, that's not true. But you can see what the characters are thinking because it feels like you know them and you know the relationships between them very well by that point. I think this is like a bit over halfway. So I skipped quite a bit here because I guess after the award night. Oh, yeah, there's quite a time jump. Or was that a time jump? The time is really confusing me. Never mind what I said before about like it's not that bad. It isn't bad. It's just I'm definitely not used to that kind of time jumping. Holy crap! Because I think the next scene after that is when they're on the road again. Russell and Frank are with their wives taking their road trip. And he calls up Hoffa and he says, like, you need to sit down with the little guy again to straighten things out. He's like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm going to hang up on you, okay? You have to understand. And so Frank says to Russell, like, he's thinking about it, even though he's definitely not thinking about it. And then when they're sitting by the pool, he says, maybe you should call him because he was thinking about it. Russell says that's a Frank, and Frank goes and calls him again. And Jimmy changed his mind and said, you'll be there by 2 tomorrow because they're going to be they're doing another meeting. Because the last one went so well with Tony Pro ending up saying, like, I'm going to kidnap your granddaughter and I'm going to, like, strangle her and whatnot. So then Hoffa exploded and tried to choke out Tony Pro. So this is like their second attempt at doing this. And Russell, he's making a salad in a kitchen, and I love this scene because it's so quiet, but yeah, there's so much tension. He's like, don't call him. We did all we did. We did all we could for the man. And this is where this is the whole Jimmy Hoffa and Frank Sheeran relationship is going to start winding down and crashing and burning now because he trusts Russell, and I would too because Hoffa's out of his mind at this point. So after that, you have that entire 30-minute. It's not even 30 minutes. It's shorter than that, but you have that entire 15-minute sequence or something like that where After Russell says to Frank, "You're going to," I think it was Chicago, and they're eating their cereal, and he's like, "It has to be you, because he trusts you. I'm sorry it had to be this way. We did all we could, but you have to go." And you can see Frank is like so conflicted with this, even though he claims later he didn't care. He knew something wasn't right about this, but he goes and flies to Chicago. I think it was Chicago, and to do a hit on Jimmy Hoffa. So, this whole thing would just calm down. And so he's driving down the road and he sees Hoffa and he like speeds away. That's when this whole tension filled part of the movie starts. Like the whole time I was just like, oh, what's going to happen? Like when he goes and, Chucky comes and Sally Bugs, they're all in the car and they're talking about like, what kind of fish did you have in here? Like, what do you mean you don't know what kind of fish? Like that whole scene, I was on the edge. I was like, oh my god, they're just talking about fish, but why am I so nervous? I was really, really nervous. So when he goes back and he says like the meeting's at the house, Jimmy Hoffa walks into the house and he sees nobody there and he's just like, let's get out of here, Frank. And Frank pulls out his gun and shoots him in the head like 3 times and whatnot. I was just like, oh, that was tough. That was tough to watch, but it was earned. And, I knew it was going to happen. Like, imagine this wasn't a true story. This is brilliant writing. This is just brilliant writing. It is a true story, and it's based off a book. But I'm just saying, like, as a movie, it's brilliant. Basically, what I'm saying is that I don't really think you can see too many better movies, better directors handling a true story about crime like this. It's just freaking masterful. So yeah, Jimmy trusted Frank with his life. Like he was just like, before he realized Frank was in the car when they're about to go pick him up to kill him. You see that he doesn't trust his own son and doesn't trust Sally Bugs. When he looks in the back and he sees Frank, and he gets in the car because he trusts Frank so much. Oh yeah. And when they were pulling out of that street, like there's a bird's eye view of Chucky driving out of that street, and then when they went back to kill Jimmy, they went back the same way. And it's the same shot. So that kind of cements you knowing what's gonna happen. Oh my gosh, I think the best acting from De Niro, and he's on the phone and he can't get his words out because he calls Jo, Jimmy Hoffa's wife. He's like, I don't know what happened to him. He's having like a panic attack because like he did it, but yet she's saying like, could you please like call me in the morning and help me through this because you don't know where my husband is. He killed your husband, and he's like freaking out about that because not only did his daughter. She knew. Like, Peggy's way too smart to not know that Frank Sheeran was the one to kill Jimmy Hoffa, or at least make him go missing. So that's when she stopped talking to him for good, which is really sad, even though he deserves it. The court scene where the dude's like, he's asking Frank Sheeran a bunch of questions, and Frank Sheeran's just like, I respectfully decline to answer the question. He's like, what color is my pen? He's like, I respectfully decline to answer your question. He's like, okay, I know what's going on here. There's a really, really, really amazing shot of the Lincoln going through like the car wash, and there's this string music. It's like the strings got so low on this, like it was stand-up bass or something, and it makes like this car feel evil. Like this is either it's sad or it's trying to emit sadness that Frank is having to give up his car, or that car was there during all these terrible things that were happening. So the music really emulates something there. I don't really know what yet. So when you flash forward and you see Frank and Russell in prison, they're all like old and decrepit, and they look decrepit and old. Like it was so good. I'll stop saying it was so good, but it was so good. So they're sitting and they're eating bread and wine. It was either bread or wine or grape juice or something like that. when they're old men sitting in that cafeteria and they're eating the bread and wine, it's an obvious callback to when they first met. Like, well, no, they met for the second time when this all started happening, and they're eating bread and wine when he was telling him about the military stuff and whatnot. So I just love how they did an homage to the beginning of the movie. So at the beginning and the end of all of this craziness. That was not really the best way to say it, but the bread and wine, it's symbolism for a lot of stuff. Once again, the aging looks incredible. Yeah. Another one of my favorite scenes is when Frank is talking to his other daughter, because you didn't see a lot of her, but I love how we got an insight to his other daughters, because he's had 4 or 5 other daughters, right? So, or not 4 or 5 other ones besides Peggy. It's like, I think it's Peggy and 4 other daughters. Maybe it was just her and 3 other people, but whatever. He was saying, like, is there anything I could do to make it up to you or anything? She's like, no. Like, she doesn't even need to say no. She was just nodding or shaking her head like, no. That part almost got me. I was almost like, be a man. Whatever. You can cry in movies as much as you want. I'm not saying anything about that. If you cried in that scene, the movie works. Like, the movie worked for you, because it was so sad seeing Frank, this old man, knowing the stuff he did was wrong, saying, like, can I make it up to you now? It's I could get worked up about it right now. It's so good. It's so impactful. When he's talking to, I think it was the 2 detectives or the 2 journalists or whatever, and they're like, and Frank is like, talk to my attorney and, tell him this and that. And they're like, your attorney's dead. They're all gone. Salerno and Buffalino, they're all gone. You're living in the past still. So I love that he was still hung up on the past and thinking everybody was still there. The priest scene where he's like, do you feel anything? We can be sorrowful without feeling much. That scene was so real. It was so in the moment. It was the best. It was so good. There's no, like, emotional outbursts in that scene. It's quiet and it's somber. It's the kind of acting and writing that makes this film go to another level. So he's talking to that, like, nurse. She's taking her blood tests, and he's like, and Frank is showing her pictures. This is like the 4th last point or something like that, by the way. And he's showing her pictures, and she's saying, like, well, who's that? And he's like, well, you don't know who that is. It's Jimmy Hoffa. And she's like, oh yeah. He's like, oh yeah, right. Oh yeah. I thought that was kind of funny. And so yeah, that I think the ending of this movie is a lot like the ending of this, because after all the crazy stuff goes down in this movie, after all the drug stuff ends and people start dying and whatnot, the movie still keeps going for an extra 40 minutes or something, and it just shows the aftermath and all this stuff, because it's a true story. Like, you have to show that stuff. So this movie kind of does the same thing. After Jimmy Hoffa dies, it shows the aftermath for an extra 50 minutes or something like that, and I don't care. It was perfect. All the stuff with De Niro as an elderly man. 10 out of 10. It was so good. So yeah, and you know what? The movie needed to be 3 hours and 28 minutes or 3 hours and 30 minutes on however long it was. It needed to be. I'd say the only stuff that could have been either not cut out but just done better was the Kennedy stuff. It was dry. Otherwise, it didn't seem like 3 hours and 28 minutes. It just seemed like 2 hours 30 maybe. And so that's always a good compliment for the movie. So yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say. I wrote it's easily quotable. Like, I think after a few years when this movie, ages, it probably aged very well. And I think there's gonna be a lot of quotes that you can say, because I've even found a lot of quotes, and I just watched the movie like 2 days ago what day is it? I don't know. I don't even know what day it is. It's the 29th, so it came out on the 27th. So in only that amount of time, I've found a lot of good quotes, and I've said a lot of them in this stream, right? So there you go, The Irishman. I loved it. I think it's definitely in my top 10, maybe even my top 5 of the year. The only reason I don't give it an A plus is because of the time jumping. I can't get over it right now. Maybe if I watch it again, I won't care and I'll put a plus on that A. But as of now, I'll say it's like a really high A, and I just think it's actually it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I don't know. I wasn't anticipating this movie too much. The only anticipation I had was like, oh, it's another Scorsese movie with De Niro and Pesci and Al Pacino and Ray Romano. That's the only reason why I was a little excited. After watching it and I thought about it and I watched it again, it's better than I thought it would be. So there you go. If you guys watched it, well, hopefully you agree with me, and if you don't, comment and whatnot, because I think this is necessary viewing for this year. And if you don't see this, there's a lot of other good stuff, but I'd say The Irishman is definitely a highlight of the year. So thank you for watching this 56-minute long stream of me reading notes. If you found it entertaining, please subscribe, like, and share. And have a great day, you wonderful people.